Okay, so we're gonna do our 5,000 mile oil change. Come on, neutral. First step, warm up that oil. So what you're gonna need is a 12 millimeter socket, a 8 millimeter, yeah, 8 millimeter socket for the filter housing. You're gonna need your oil filter. Part number is here. And then you're gonna need your O-ring and your crush washer. Got my full synthetic 10W30 from Honda, because I'm gonna do a flush though. I'm just gonna throw in some cheap O'Reilly 10W30 in there for beginning. Let it kind of circulate around. Drain it again, and that's when we'll swap out our filter and crush washer. Alright, so we let it warm up for a little bit. We're gonna go ahead and take off our drain plug. Careful, this oil might be hot. Alrighty. And we let her flow and drain her all the way. So the way that it sits, you might want to kind of stand her up a little bit. Good thing it doesn't weigh anything. There's our crush washer. And kind of like rotate it a little bit, sit it up straight, let that oil come out. Alright, we're almost done. So it only takes a quart, so it doesn't take a long time to drain, especially when you heat the oil up first by running the engine for a couple minutes. And then we'll put in the rinse oil. And then I'm going to take it for a spin just down the road a bit and back, and then we'll basically do it again and add our oil filter. But don't forget to put the crush washer back on. And torque spec is going to be around 20 pounds. I'm not tripping about it right now. And I also don't use a torque wrench for mine. I just kind of go by feel. I use a copper, or used a copper crush washer on the last one. It doesn't really matter if you're using copper or aluminum or some sort of in between, as long as it's a good crush washer. And we're gonna add our quart of throwaway oil, and then we're gonna take her for a spin. Okay, we added our quart of oil. Pretty freaking simple, man. So yeah, we're gonna take her for a little ride, just about 5 miles. Let that oil work in there, rinse out whatever is stuck to the walls if there's anything in there, and then we will repeat the process and replace the filter. Alright, so we just got back from a ride. It's gonna be hot, but whatever. So now we'll just repeat that same process, only this time we'll replace the filter. So it's a darker color already from when it went in. So that tells me that it did pick up some extra residue. Make sure that the crush washer either comes off with your bolt or take it off yourself, but make sure that it's not on there. You don't want to double up your crush washer. Alright, so we let her drain a little bit. We're going to take our 8 millimeter and pop off the bolts for our filter housing. Alright, so it popped off on its own, but here is our cover. We're going to make sure everything's clean when we put it back on. Don't lose your spring. That's what holds our filter up against inside of there. Just take a finger and it should slide right out. Right out. There we go. It was hot. Okay, there we go. She's now out of there. So the O-ring we have is going to go around this plate here, and that's going to help keep all that stuff in there. I haven't replaced it yet. I recommend you do replace it every several thousand miles. This is our 5,000 miles, so we're going to go ahead and swap it out so that way it doesn't fall apart and we end up leaking oil through our goddamn whatchamacallit. So you see how it's puddling in there? Cooling, whatever. So we're going to go ahead and rotate the bike, kind of just tilt it. It's going to get more out of the bottom of our drain pan, or our oil pan, and it's going to get it out of there. And you can also maybe see in there where the oil enters the filter, that little hole right there. So we're just going to hold it right here for a little bit, make sure all that oil comes out, and then we'll get started on the next. Alright, so next we're going to take our new crush washer, throw that on our bolt, find the hole. I always have a problem with this part. Ask my wife, she'll tell you. There it is, right there. Oh, my hands are too slippery for that. I'll get it right up in there. Get her in there. Remember, this is 12 millimeter. And we'll go ahead and crank, crank, crank. And we'll go with a little bit of good enough for me. Okay. So then what we'll do is we'll grab our new oil filter. And it matches my Crocs. Right on. Okay, so O-ring. The O-ring it comes with is going to go inside. So our new external O-ring, and it'll just go right over here. Now to take the old one off, I just used a knife. And you can use keys, a knife, fingernails if they're long enough, and boom, just like that. She's on there. Don't forget your spring. Your spring is going to slide right into that little hole right there. Okay. I might need 2 hands for this part. But we're going to put this on just like so. Okay, so there was those 2 8mm bolts that we took off earlier that we set aside. We're going to go ahead and tighten those down. I don't remember seeing any torque specs for this, but we're just going to go with snug and 1/4 turn. Do them kind of evenly, unless you're pushing in with one hand, so that way it doesn't bind up and potentially damage the O-ring. And then we're going to go ahead and tighten it. Again, we're going to go kind of back and forth just to make sure it's in there nice and even. And nice and good. All that's left is to add the oil and we're done. So for this I'm using Honda oil. I normally use like Valvoline or whatever. As long as it's full synthetic 10W30, you should be fine. I'm a little shaky this morning. I had a rock star. I'm not used to that level of caffeine. And it doesn't have to be the entire quart, but you want to, well, I mean, I guess it does, but you don't have to worry about those little drips. But we added our quart of oil, and we're all done. Put our cap back on. And it's good practice to make sure you check your sight, which is going to be right there. I don't know if you can see that. It's right there. We'll go ahead and just pick the bike up, stand it up, and see the sight glass fill. We're good to go, man. Pretty freaking easy, dude. I think it took me a total of a half an hour, and that's with the recording and all that fun stuff. So all that we got to do now is edit it, throw it up on the internet. So if you have any questions, let me know. That's pretty easy, huh? You guys have a great day.